Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Iowa State Cyclones Live here on the Voice of College Football Network. I'm Levi Stevenson, joined by my co-host Carter Hansen. How's it going, Carter?
It's going well. It's going well. I'm pretty tired.
Yeah, it was a long, tiring, but very fun, but long and tiring weekend. And just kind of just trying to get my feet back under me, because after that, I had some couple long days of work, and then I'm headed to Vegas tomorrow for a convention through the weekend. So it's a circus around my life right now.
It's gonna be in for a long latter half of the week. Jeez.
Yeah. Tonight we're just talking spring football. We both went up to the spring game in Ames on Saturday, so we're gonna break down position by position, kind of what we thought about each group. We can maybe try to project kind of a two deep at each position, because I think we got a decent look at a lot of guys on Saturday, and go through that. But I guess, was there any just kind of initial thoughts from that spring game, just kind of overall impression, first impressions you came away with?
Yeah, I think some of the position groups really highlighted good energy. Defense was flying around making plays when they could. I really did like the start of it when they did the midnight alley. I mean, that's just a tone setter. It was just a tone setter for the whole session. And I think Zamir Hawk said it best when he said that, really
bigger nuts. Yeah. For anybody that didn't see it, the Midnight Alley drill is sort of a modified version of the old Oklahoma drill, where it's, they basically lined up with two offensive linemen and a running back against two defensive linemen and a linebacker, at the 2-yard line or whatever it is. And offense tries to score, defense tries to stop them. But it's a fun drill. It's, like I said, it's similar to the old Oklahoma drill in that it's very mono, like Zamir Hawk. Like Zamir Hawk said, it's, dude with the biggest nuts type of thing. Like, that's very much the attitude of that drill. And I thought it did a good job of setting the attitude, just setting a tone for the practice, for the day, and really for the team and the program in general. I thought that was a good indicator of what they're trying to do, is, just go out there and be the last one to throw the punch in the mouth type of thing. And, and just be the tougher team, go out there and play hard type of thing. And I thought it was awesome. I thought it was a cool drill. It definitely set the tone, I think, as far as just this is the team that, are they the most physically imposing? Are they the most talented team that you're ever going to see? Maybe not, but God damn it, they're going to play hard. They're going to play their asses off. And they're going to be physical, and that was very apparent from the beginning, and that was kicked off by that midnight alley drill, which I thought was really cool. Like I said, they only ran a couple reps of it, and they clearly had guys picked out that they were gonna do it with, but I thought it was really cool.
Yeah. One thing I didn't know about that was, I think that was something that Roll brought with him from the Lions. And I think that's a really cool transition to the college game. It's just another sprinkle of high energy effort and practice.
Well, and part of it too is the old Oklahoma drill gets a lot of. I mean, it deservedly gets a kind of a bad rap, because if you're using it in youth football, it's really dangerous because they don't know how to tackle properly and all that. It's really, really dangerous, that drill is. But when you can modify like that to essentially just create an outside zone running situation, or really, or even a trap running situation or something like that, where it's about reading your blocks, about the linebacker reading the offensive line and watching the running back and making a tackle in a gap. It practices that situation, and it also reinforces that culture of just toughness and grittiness that it was very, very obvious that they want to perpetuate within the program. So, it's a great variation, because that the Oklahoma drill has always been a mono thing, but you can still have that and still make it safer and more meaningful for your team.
Definitely.
So we're just going to go down kind of in your usual order. We're just going to go down through each position group, talk about, give our thoughts on each of these. And we'll just start right at the top with quarterbacks. All four quarterbacks on the roster got time. They ran drills beforehand. We saw a little bit of that. And then the walk-on quarterback, Wyatt Boehm, he got a few snaps right at the end. But, unsurprisingly, the main guy running with the first team was Jalen Rayner. But Zane Flores also got quite a lot of action.
Mm-hmm.
Moberly appeared to me to be the clear third guy. It seems where rather than it be Jalen Rayner and then Flores and Moberly, it seemed to me to be Rayner, Flores, Moberly.
Yes, definitely.
That's the way it seemed to me.
Mm-hmm. Which that's on par with what they've said all spring so far, even through the parts of February and March, of how close that battle is between Flores and Rayner. And I think we really showed it off. They really showed it off. Both of the touchdown drives from the offense were led by Zane Flores. He threw a dime.
He threw a couple of them.
He threw the dime to Cody Jackson on that touchdown.
Oh, it was a beautiful throw. Gorgeous throw. Well, and another throw earlier in the practice during the drills that I thought may have gotten missed was he hit Aiden Flora on a wheel route, and they were running one-on-ones. They're running one-on-one routes, and Flora came out of the backfield on a wheel route and burnt his dude, and Flores just gifted it to him right over the top, and it was a gorgeous throw on that, on a really good route, really good throw, really good play. Austin captures it right here as well. He's a lot better than I anticipated. So I was a depth guy when he signed. I had suspicions that he was going to be a lot better than people gave him credit for because that Oklahoma State team was so bad last year. Mm-hmm. But as we saw on Saturday, is that Oklahoma State team was not bad because of Zane Flores.
No.
Actually, I should also clarify. I was informed by John Walters on Saturday night at Side South Trivia that it's Flores, not Flores.
Flores? But
really? As in the floors you walk on.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to retrain myself to say floors instead of Flores. But well, it's because we have Flora and Flora with Flora and Floors now instead of Flora and Flores. But
just wait till they're in the same backfield together.
Yeah, no shit. But I think that's the right. I think that's kind of the what I saw was that Zane Flores is not there to just be a forever backup. It was very clear to me that he may be pushing Rayner a little bit. As far as I think it seemed to me as though Rayner is the starter, and we shouldn't take away. He had some very, very nice throws as well. They didn't really ask him to do much with his legs. There was a couple times he escaped from the pocket, but he obviously has a no contact jersey on. And as soon as he's outside the pocket, they're just going to blow the whistle.
Mm-hmm.
But he made some nice throws as well. So I shouldn't gloss over that Rayner had a good day for himself. But Zane Flores, I think, showed that he's not a real big difference from Rayner in terms of ability to play the quarterback position.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think even next year, going into the future, it might honestly be his backfield to lose next year. I mean, if he sticks around and if he continues to make good strides, unless someone comes along and gives him a challenge for it.
And right now, I guess it doesn't feel to me as though Connor Moberly will be the guy to push him. And that's not a dig at Moberly. It just, if he was truly in contention to be in that first group or even in the first group next year, it seems to me as though we would have seen more of him on Saturday. We would have seen more meaningful snaps with the first teamers on Saturday, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it depends. I mean, like I say, it'll depend on who shows up and all this. And I don't know if right now, I don't think they would need to take a transfer in the portal. They did get a quarterback though in the last class that I really, really liked, Hudson Curlin.
And from Oregon.
So he'll be here in August. And watching his high school tape, he is a little bit of footwork away from being a really, really interesting player, to the point where I mean, he's got really, really high end arm talent, and maybe he's not ready right away next year, but the year after that, we'll see what maybe you don't have to start him until he's a redshirt sophomore because because Flores is good enough. But if they're, to me, based on what I have seen from Moberly and what I see on tape from Hudson Curland, it seems to me as though Hudson would have a better theoretical chance at beating out Flores next year. But we got a long ways between here and there.
Yeah.
So got a couple of questions here. Donnie Rickles wants to know, what are the odds we have 3 different starting QBs this year? Aside from injury,
that's the only thing.
There's no way. If Rayner, it doesn't work out, Flores will be there, and I would be blown away if both of those guys don't work out. Just based on what I saw, like I said, based on what I saw on Saturday, which granted, it's a spring game. It's hard to take too much away from that, but they both made some very, very nice throws. They made some very high level throws, like Big 12 caliber throws. That I have no doubt in my mind that they'll be able to make once they get to conference play and stuff like that. I have no doubt in my mind. Oh, what are the video game rankings for offense and defense in the video game? This is a great question. If I had to guess, so for reference, I believe last year's team ended the season, I believe, as like I want to say they're an 84 overall with like an 82 offense and an 85 defense. I want to say that sounds right to me. Somewhere in that range, like low to mid 80s.
Austin.
Ooh, Austin's shooting plenty low here.
I would be probably not as low on the offense. I would probably say like a 74, 78. I mean, just because of the sole fact that like everybody's new, it's like we're essentially unproven to the rest of the league, I would say.
Yeah.
We were picked to finish whatever in the preseason poll. Now, I'm not saying that we're going to end up like that, but I mean, at least the start, I don't think that they're going to love us.
My guess is it's probably closer. Now, keep in mind, the other thing to keep in mind here is, as far as the overalls go, Braden Alls is still on the roster, and he will still be on the roster for this coming football game. Even though he's not going to be on the team, he'll still be on the roster, and he will be a high 80s overall type of player. My guess is that I would say I'm gonna my official first projection of this, just based on what I've seen. My guess is Iowa State could be like a 76-80 team, or something like a 75-79. I think by the end of the year, that number will jump up. I think you'll be closer to like a 79-79 or a 79-81 type of team. But
yeah,
we'll see. It's really hard to say because it depends on how are they going to rate Aiden Flora, like, where he was, whatever, in like the high 70s or something like that next year. But now he's shown that he's got speed. He can return. He's the starter now. Like, are they going to bump him up from like a 74 to like an 81 or something like that? Or are they, what's Cody Jackson? What's Evan Boyd going to be? What's Jalen Rayner going to be? Is Jalen Rayner going to be like an 80, or is he going to be like an 85? Because if he's only like an 80 overall, he's going to be the most fun 80 overall quarterback in the entire
league. Without a doubt.
Because with his speed is nuts. Yeah. So like, that's the thing. I'd venture to say my first guess is going to be like a 77, 79, 76, 80 type of team. Very clearly favoring the defense, but the defense has some names. Isaac Terrell, Sullivan Schlemgen will probably be a pretty decent rating. Braden Alls will still be on the roster.
They have names, and like we know that they're going to be good. It's just a matter of whether the rest of the NCAA knows that they're going to be good.
My guess is that NCAA will underrate them probably to begin the season.
I think it'll take a couple games for them to potentially get any ratings boost.
Yeah, it's hard to say just because like even like they're taking a pretty big pot shot at some of these things. There's like in the first game where it was the 2014 that went to the Big 12 title game, that team started off as like an 83 or something like that. And I think at the end of the season after the Big 12 title game, they got moved up to like an 80, like an 87 or an 88 or something like that. Like they jumped up pretty significantly through the year. So this team absolutely has like the potential to do something like that. Then it won't go up. They won't be like an 88 by the end of the season, but they can absolutely, they can absolutely climb a few points here and there throughout the whole season too. So that's what I would say. Yeah, no shit. Penn State's going to be in the mid 90s, and they'll be in the low to mid 90s next year because Rocco's going to be like a 94, and Carson Hansen's going to be like a 90. Chase Soul's going to be like a 90. Marcus Neal's going to be like a 97. Like
Bramer's going to be like a 95.
Bramer will be like a 95. Yeah, it'll be disgusting. The glazing that College Football 27 is going to do to Penn State is going to be disgusting. But overall, so I'm actually not sure what Jalen Raynor's rating is. So Chase Soul, if he was at Iowa State, I would really die on this hill that he's actually a pretty good receiver. He really kicked it on towards the end of last year. He's a physically imposing receiver. He's got good speed. He felt like a guy that with an off season in the same offense was going to be able to really step it up. And maybe he does that for Penn State this year, but we're not talking Penn State today. We're talking Iowa State. So
Jalen Raynor was an 82 overall.
Jalen Raynor was an 82 last year. That doesn't shock me. My guess is that Jalen Raynor will probably be in the 82 to 85 range, if I had to guess, because he had a pretty good season last year.
84 speed.
That feels low. They might give him more. We'll see.
86 agility.
Yeah. All that feels right.
All right.
So let's move on to Raynor. I think right now Raynor is the starter, but it's not a massive gap between him and Flores. And then it seems like there is a little bit of a gap between those two and Connor Moberly, and then Wyatt Bohm. Let's move on to the running backs. So this is kind of an interesting one because the running game didn't do a whole lot on Saturday. No. Now, Aiden Flora and Cam Petaway both wore the black no contact jerseys on Saturday. To my knowledge, I don't think they have any like notable injuries. It was more just like they want to make sure that they stay healthy because you feel really, really, really good about those two, and then behind that, you're not nearly as confident. And it's worth noting the incoming running back Isaiah Hansen wasn't, he's not in there. Isaiah Hansen? It's
Caleb Francois.
What was I thinking of? Isaiah Hansen. Who the fuck is that?
He's the class 27 guy. The Newton.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That is a person. Okay. I was like, where did I get that name? No, that's a person. Yes. Isaiah Hansen's the kid from Newton. Yes. Caleb Francois is coming in, and he's not there in the spring, so we haven't seen him at all. The bulk of the work actually went to Jaden Jackson. And the
funniest part was he wasn't even on the roster. There was no number 47 on the roster online. Yeah, so it's kind of a to me, Flora and Petaway are still very much your running back one, running back two. Definitely. Whether they use Jaden Jackson or Allah from the Oklahoma State or the Oregon State transfer, Allah. If they use him, they'll use either of them as a goal line back. Jaden Jackson's got some beef to him. He looked huge.
Yeah, he's got some beef. Yeah. Nobody can figure out who the hell number 47 was because they just weren't on the program. But Flora and Cam Petaway are your starting running backs 1 and 2. They were the first two out there on kick return and punt return as well. They did try out Cody Jackson on punt return as well. But it seems very obvious to me that it's going to be Flora and Petaway back to returning kicks. And I think you're extremely happy with that.
Very fun.
I don't know. I mean, frankly, this may sound like hyperbole, but I don't like it. I don't think there's anybody in the Big 12 that has a tandem of returners that good.
I'd have to see.
I'd have to look, but I don't think anywhere. I don't think anybody else in the Big 12 has a duo of returners that can compete with that. And we'll see. Like I said, the running game didn't do a whole lot on Saturday. Part of it is the offensive line was up and down. and they're also gelling. And then I've said, no contact. Flora and Cam Petaway didn't get like a ton of touches in the live scrimmage. It was mostly Jaden Jackson, so we didn't get a great look at them. But that's kind of where it's at. Nothing I saw from Jaden Jackson made me believe he's going to be one of the first 2 running backs. I mean, again, not a dig at Jaden Jackson, just he didn't show me enough to be like, oh, he might challenge Petaway and Flora for a spot or something like that.
Yeah, and I mean, to be fair, he was the only one of the running backs that didn't have a non-contact, so it's like, right. I mean, obviously he's going to be out there hitting guys, but
yeah, and one of the other guys, Easton Miller got he got a couple snaps as well. He didn't, again, not much there as far as just like potential starter snaps or anything like that. Neither of those 2 will play. We'll get a ton of snaps. They'll get maybe some situational stuff, late game stuff, but Flora and Petaway will be your starters for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Let's move on to the receivers. And let's include the tight ends in here, mainly because this tight end room appears to me to be mostly, they have a couple guys that I think can be good down the line. The tight end room is just not gonna be featured in this offense the way that it has been in the past. Maybe you get back to that point, but right now the tight end room seems very, very raw. I do mean that, and I don't mean like, I'm not trying to like be political about saying they suck. I'm saying they look raw. The route running is not super sharp, but they've got some size there. There's some raw ability there. So there's not a lot to talk about the tight ends. They're pretty much just blockers right now, and that's okay. But let's talk about the receivers though, because I think there's a lot of interesting names here. A couple guys that I thought had a really nice practice. The first one, the major one that didn't do a whole lot, he was just in the drills, not in the live scrimmage, was Amari Hayes, which I think most people believe he will be one of the first 3. Is kind of a slot guy from Tulane, good route runner. He's very quick. He looked quick in the drills he ran. He looked really good. So yeah, we didn't get to see him in a live scrimmage, but I would project him to be one of your 3 starting receivers.
Yeah. And another guy, Austin's actually highlighting right now. Carter Pabst. I think he was also dealing with a little bit of a hammy. I don't know if he did he play in the scrimmage?
No, he did drills, but he did not play in the live scrimmage. No.
But I mean, he's another guy that he might not be a starter, but he's at least a plug and play guy.
As of right now, I wouldn't put him in the top 3, but he'll be in the rotation at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Now the other 2 guys I do believe that seem to me I would say there's 2 more starting receiver spots, and there's 3 guys I think that had a really good day on Saturday that I think are absolutely in contention to be there. Evan Boyd seems to me, based on where I the guys he was running with, who was throwing him in drills, where he was at in the live scrimmage, seems to me to be wide receiver 1 right now. Which I think you're good with. He's a big body. I mean, he looks big on the field. He very much looks like kind of like a thicker Matt Eaton almost, where he's 6'4", he's got some beef to him. He's taller. He's like LaMichael Petway, but a little taller. Not super dissimilar from like an Alan Lazard. Very much that body type.
I after the scrimmage, I actually went down to down to the base of the stadium, and he was there along with Aiden Flora and Cam Petaway, and he did look very tall compared to those 2.
Cam Petaway is not a large human being.
No.
Evan Boyd is a pretty good. He's sizable. Seemed to me very much your wide receiver 1 at this point. Now we didn't get to see Amari Hayes, but Evan Boyd got targets. He lined up outside in the X spot. Seems to me as though they're planning on him being wide receiver 1 this coming season.
I would then move to Dom Overby. I think that he had a really good,
this is kind of a strange comment here from Redbury. He says he should be a really good blocking tight end. I mean, he's a receiver. He's definitely a receiver. Yeah. There you go. Okay. Blocking. Yeah. Yeah. With his size, he absolutely can be he can be a huge asset in the running game for sure. No question about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Other two guys I think are in contention for that third spot. Dom Overby had a very nice day on Saturday. I saw a receiver that looks like the light. It looks like the light has started to come on for him. He's always had the ability. He's like 6'5", ran a sub 1100 meter dash in high school. He was the state high jump champion. Obviously big time athlete. He's long. The potential's always been there. It was a matter of when was the light going to come on, and he was going to be, he was going to get the route running nailed down. His hands were going to get better. The receiver I saw on Saturday from Dom Overby looked confident. He ran with purpose. I didn't see any like notion of issues with his hands. He looks like to me on Saturday, he looked like he's getting ready to have a breakout season.
Yep. I think like the confidence, like you said, really emanated from him after he caught that first ball, and I think he made a couple good cuts. Then I think he caught his next couple. So, I mean, as long as he can shore up the route running and keep his hands honest and good, I think he's got a real good shot to be a top 2 receiver come end of year in terms of like yards and touchdowns and whatnot.
He to me, he's your obvious, like right now anyways, he's the clear, like if there's of the big play threats on the team, he would probably be your biggest deep threat. Now, how much this offense will throw deep, I don't know, because if you're pulling from like the Lions offense, the Lions and the Bears both do not throw deep particularly often. They'll throw it down the field a little bit just because Caleb Williams and Jared Goff are both very, very good quarterbacks. But, the offense isn't really designed to be super explosive and take chunk yardage. They're more methodical. They find room in the running game. They find stuff in the intermediate passing game. But Overby looked like a guy to me that if you could, you get him open on a slant, he can catch it and give us one of those patented Iowa State, backdoor slants that goes for 90 yards.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which it seems like we have one of those every few years. You can about put it on the board for every few years. They're going to send take one of those to the house.
So Xavier Hutchinson, Oklahoma State, or was it Oklahoma State?
Oklahoma. So the original, the OG was Quentin Bundridge taking 97 yards to the house against Texas back in 2014. And then you had another. Then there was another one in between, but then you had Xavier Hutchinson against Oklahoma in 2000. And I believe Jalen Knoll did it a couple times. He did it once against BYU in the snow. He did it a few different people. They've just all. It's just one. It's a play that I was
one tackle and then they're gone.
It's just happened under multiple coaching staffs. So it's just they've gotten away with it. He's that kind of guy. He's that kind of explosive. As soon as as he keeps developing his footwork, developing his hands, and becomes even more of like a jump ball threat, he's going to be a big problem down the road. As far as like physical potential goes, he's not dramatically far behind like a Hakeem Butler, where it's just as far as like what his athleticism and his body type will allow him to do down the road. He can be Hakeem Butler.
Definitely. And I also didn't realize how tall he was. He's listed at 6'5".
He's 6'5". He's 6'5". Yeah, he's taller than Hakeem Butler.
He definitely has the potential to be real special.
Yeah. It's just a matter of, again, making the light, just getting the light to flip on. And we thought we might have got it last year when he caught that opening touchdown versus Kansas State, and the hands got inconsistent. But if just a change in wide receiver coach was enough to help him get that shored up and get that in order, he's got big time potential. And I love that for him. And I was glad to see him have a really great day, because he felt like a guy last year that we were all rooting for to have a big day. Like, man, like he's so close. We know he can get there. And then just once in a while, then he just dropped one. It's like, shit, damn, type of thing where you're rooting for him to have a big year type of thing.
Definitely.
So last guy on the list that I felt like really cemented himself in the conversation for being in that first group was Cody Jackson, Tarleton State, formerly of Tarleton State, then previous to that Oklahoma. He was a high-ranking guy coming out of high school. He's a clean 4-star receiver coming out of high school. Caught a couple really nice balls. Cut that really, really nice deep ball from Zane Flores, and just was consistently targeted, did a good job all day. Seems to me to have obvious ability that he can be up in that first group.
Definitely. And I like him lining up in the slot too. And even
Mhm.
on the jet sweep that he had for the touchdown, if you put him in situations like that, I think that's where he can really thrive. He seems like a guy with a lot of experience, so he'll know when to settle in a soft spot in the zone
Yep,
if they're playing back, and just really really good experience. So it's good to have a leader of that caliber in this core.
for sure. One guy I will say that I was pleasantly surprised with on Saturday was Trevor Fortenberry. If you'd asked me to create a two deep of receivers before Saturday, Trevor Fortenberry would have not been on that list. Um, but he played a bunch on Saturday. He played a lot, even with the first team. He got a lot of targets, and not only did he get a lot of targets, but he had some really long plays. Had that one run after the catch for like 79 yards or something like that.
Yep.
I mean, it's very clear to me that him and Jalen Raynor are on the same page. I don't know what his long-term outlook looks like. Is he realistically in the rotation? Is he there? Was he there on Saturday because of Omari Hayes' injury / whatever other guys getting banged up? Maybe, but
he showed out.
He had a really good day.
Good, yeah.
And we've seen other guys that have really great spring games and then they just don't end up doing anything. We've seen it in basketball with like the Des Moines League and all that,
mm-hmm.
the YMCA League. But it's kind of like I don't know. He was not on my radar before, and now he's kind of on my radar. We'll see. And like I said, I don't know if that spring game was enough to put him in the conversation for a spot in that starting rotation, but it made it interesting, and he had some really nice plays.
It's cool to talk about for sure. Yeah, but like you said, it's like an unknown because of the couple guys that were out that were probably mocked before him in the depth chart. So yeah, we'll see. It's interesting.
Right now, if I were to project like a two deep, I think the starters right now would be Boyd, Hayes, and Overby.
Yeah,
I'm gonna say. Then probably the next three would be Pabst, Cody Jackson, and then maybe Trevor Fortenberry. I don't know. Maybe. Just kind of depends. But
yeah.
We will move on to the offensive line, which the offensive line was inconsistent on Saturday, is what I would say.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't bad, but they were inconsistent for sure. They rotated a few guys in and out here. One guy that did not play a ton in that, or he was not playing with the first team. It's hard when you're, especially where I was sitting in the stadium, but like in general, it's hard to keep track of like personnel, the offensive line personnel during the game. Because they all have similar numbers and you have to track them down before the play starts and all that. So it's hard to track. It's hard to like chart exactly like who get all the snap counts and stuff like that. Messiah King did not run a ton with the first group from what I could tell. I don't know if that's an injury. I don't know if what that is, or if he's just not nearly as good as we thought he was. But it was interesting that I didn't see him more. I didn't notice him more with the first team anyways.
Yeah. One guy that was cool to see him get some run with the first team was Garrett Rutledge. Was listening to someone talk about that and pride of Lewis Central out in Council Bluffs.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently he was a guy that the new staff was elated to bring back. So I mean, if he's out there fighting for a day one spot on the O line, like, I mean, that's just another guy you can plug and play.
Yeah,
and have that much experience behind him.
This one, this position right now, this position group feels like the most difficult one to project a starting group for right now because it's so early, and I don't even know if I could tell you a starting five right now. It's difficult. Maybe you could find just pick 9 guys and you're probably going to hit on most of them as far as being in the rotation. But it's a little early right now. Right now is like do you plug in Braden Smith? I think the Colorado School of Mines transfer. Or no, Braden Smith.
Braden Smith was the Tarleton State guy.
Oh yes, yes.
Moss was from Sioux Falls. He also started.
Yeah.
The guy, I don't know if the School of Mines guy played much.
I don't know if he did or not.
I know Colin Amick was another.
Colin Amick played a little bit. I know I think Brocious played a little bit. It's hard to say. It's just right now it's too early to call any sort of like a 2 deep here. Mm-hmm. You know, we can take a guess based on like tape from last year, I guess, sort of, but there's too many variables here right now to really project too much. But as a group, though, I don't want to say I was underwhelmed because I didn't come in with a lot of expectations, but they were inconsistent. You could tell that the defensive line they were going against is much further along than the offensive line was on Saturday. That seemed more apparent to me versus any sort of like glaring like, oh my God, the offensive line is going to be terrible this year type of thing. It was more just like, okay, the defensive line is clearly ahead of the offensive line right now.
Yeah. And I think that also has to do with the continuity as well. I mean, like you saw a lot of new guys on the O-line come in. And on the D-line, I mean, you had some new guys come in as well, but I mean, how many Washington State guys came in running that same defensive scheme that they ran over there? So, I mean, I think it's familiarity. It could also be experience as well. But it's not really a great like cone to set going forward. I mean, obviously it's good to see like some guys and like their playing time, but it's really hard to judge based on that.
Yeah. I have full confidence in Joe Thornton to get it figured out at some point, get something acceptable out there for sure. But the defensive line, which we can just kind of use that to kind of just transition right into the defensive line. I thought the defensive line was impressive. I thought they did a nice job. Had some really nice plays out there. Isaac Terrell did not play, and they still looked pretty good. And he said how they're ahead of the offensive line right now. Is it because the defensive line is incredible and the offensive line is just okay? Is it because the defensive line is just okay and the offensive line's bad? I don't know. But what I do know is that the defensive line looked pretty good on Saturday. Zamir Hawk had a nice day. Like I said, Isaac Terrell didn't even play, and that unit still looked good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, D-line, I think Jack Janikowski, Caden Crawford, Blake Hawkins, I think they all made some really nice plays in there.
I think Caden Crawford, he came from South Dakota via Iowa. Yep. Yeah, starting with Iowa. I think he will end up being he will end up being one of the better transfer gets from the portal, I think, this year. In terms of the value you can get back out of him, I really think he's going to be awesome.
Yeah, the upside's there. I mean, obviously, he started out at Iowa. I'm not sure of the offers he had out of high school, but
I think if you look though that group, I think there's a lot of talent. There are a lot of names to be excited about. You know, Jace Gilbert, Trey Verdon coming back, Jack Limbaugh coming back. I know that they were excited to get him back. And Caden Crawford's huge too. He's played a lot. You know, Jack Janikowski, I think, is going to be. He didn't play a ton Saturday, but I think he's a high upside. Malachi Tease got a lot of run on Saturday. Thought he looked pretty decent. Zamir Hawk to me looks like a guy that we are seeing his like. We're seeing this is the offseason that Zamir Hawk really makes the jump. That's what it feels like to me. You know, in that interview, he's confident. It seems to me as though he's treating this as like, this is his chance. This is his room. He can go in and be the leader and run this thing. And, he and Isaac Terrell have, the potential of those two as far as just a duo on the interior of a defensive line is really, really exciting. I think they're going to make a really, really good defensive tackle pair on that defensive line.
Definitely. And I mean, going back to Friday, watching Dom Orange get drafted, having Zamir Hawk under him for the last 2 years, however many, 3 years, 2 years, I think.
Yeah, 3
that
years.
he's been here. Being able to learn from him and other guys in the room, I think it's going to be a real coming out party for him come September 5th for SEMO.
Yeah, and like there's other guys in there too that are really like Max Balloon is probably going to be in there. He's probably going to do some stuff. You get Bryson Lamb is in there. They've got a lot of options on that defensive line that like and I really think the nice thing is you can lean on Zamir Hawk and Isaac Terrell to really anchor the interior of that defensive line where even if you're still like trying to figure out exactly who your top 2 pass rushers are going to be on the edge, those 2 guys in the middle being able to anchor the interior of that defensive line, I think is a really special combo that's going to make that group, the floor of that group is going to be really high when you can have those 2 guys sitting there at tackle and just kind of and eating up space in the middle of that defensive line. That'll be a nice pairing there for sure.
Yeah. And you got to like their chances against the power running games of the Big 12 conference anyway. Yeah. A lot better than the 3-3-5.
The linebackers, I came away impressed the most of any position group on Saturday. I think I came away the most impressed with the linebacker group. They were as good as advertised. I know you and I have both been excited about them, about the different guys they have in the room. I came away feeling very, very good about the linebacker group. Starting group was Sullivan Schlemgen, Carson Willick, and then they had Willie Breland outside at the nickel spot. A lot of times they had Willie Breland out there. He played safety out of Mississippi Gulf Coast, and then they had him lined up. They have him on the roster as a linebacker, but they lined him out at the nickel spot, which is kind of like a hybrid linebacker safety spot in this offense. He played him out there. The other guy that they ran out, they had a few guys out there, but then you had another group there with Tristan Exline, who I was very, very high on coming out of D2. Tristan Exline laid the wood on some people. Like that guy is smart. He's athletic. He's super aggressive. Man, he's there'll be times where I still will run a true 4-3. You'll have, at some point they'll have Exline, Schlemgen, and Carson Willick out there at the same time, and that's a nutso linebacker group. That's a really, really high end linebacker group. In power run situations, when they can sit in a true 4-3 and run those 3 linebackers out there, they're going to be very difficult to run the ball against.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought Exline really highlighted on Saturday. He flew around the field making plays when he was on there. He really impressed me.
Yeah. There was a couple times you could hear the pads pop from up in the stands when X-Line was laying wood on people. It was something to watch, man. It was, because the last time I got I was really excited about a linebacker coming out of a smaller school, out of a lower level that was coming in was he came out of Delaware. I just had his name on my head and I can't.
Colby Reeder.
Colby Reeder. When I watched Colby Reeder at Delaware, I was like, man, this guy's just like Micros 2.0. I was really excited for him. And then he got up to State. He dealt with some injuries, but it also just wasn't fast enough. He didn't fit in the defense as much as I would have liked him to fit. It just didn't really work out as much as well as I was hoping it would. Boy, if Tristan Exline looks in a regular game like he did in that spring game, then look the fuck out for Iowa State's linebacker group, because Schlemgen and Willick were all over the place. Willick playing at 220 instead of 240 he looked fast. He looked fast. He looked carefree, and he was agile. He was all over the place. He looks like he can drop in coverage and keep up with a good chunk of receivers and stuff like that. You can tell that those linebackers are having a whole lot of fun just flying around in that defense. And I would say it's front 7 on defense next year is really good. Really good. Impressive.
Yeah. Donnie wanted to know what I was drinking. It's a Jose Pomseco. It is a draft from Alluvial Brewing. It is a fruited sour with passion fruit, orange, and mango. It is good.
Quite citrusy. I'm boring. I'm just drinking an orange cream sparkling ice.
Can't go wrong.
Also very good. Yeah, to me, if you're coming away with like who is the best group on Saturday, I'm gonna say the linebackers. I've been high on them. I'm still high on them. And maybe more high on them now than I was before because they've got 3 to 5 dudes that you can run out there on any given play and feel like. And Willie Breland was out there playing nickel. And he's technically a linebacker, but he's he played safety last year. He's kind of in that 215-ish range where he's just kind of right in between. He can play both. He was good too. He did a nice job. They've got a really great group of linebackers that you can put out there for really any type of situation, whether it's a known passing down, power run situation, goal line situation. When you have that kind of speed and that agility, especially to go laterally and get vertical and lay the wood on some people.
Mm-hmm.
This is the time right now is to get excited about Iowa State's defense for next year. They're going to be underrated on the video game because you have a lot of guys coming up from lower levels and stuff like that, and they're just naturally going to be unrated in the game. If they were being properly rated, Iowa State's defense would be, I think right now would be somewhere in the neighborhood of like an 85 or better.
Yeah.
I think they're that good. I
would give it 4 games. I think after the first Big 12 game, that will be when they establish themselves, I think.
Yeah, I am super excited. Like I think they will give, like when Utah comes to town in late September, I think they're going to give Utah a ton of problems because Utah wants to run the ball and they want to do it with the quarterback and all this. And guess what? Now you have linebackers that can actually keep up with a running quarterback. They're fast enough to do that now. You don't have some big lugs at 250 pounds trying to just plug the gap and hope the safeties come down and take care of it. You've got a very good defensive line and you've got linebackers that can keep up with any running quarterback on the schedule. And they are not going to be afraid to make that dude regret running out of the pocket. And I'm telling you, I don't know if we're going to win that game. I don't know if the offense is going to be any good, but what I do know, the defense is going to be crazy. The defense is going to be really fun. Yeah, I'm very, very excited about the defense.
Yeah.
Let's go back.
Linebackers are going to be deep.
Yeah, they are. Absolutely. Let's move back to the secondary. I know our friend Jackson Pence over at Cyclone Fanatic has been very, very high on the corners this year. I am not quite as high on the corners as he is. I'm more cautious about it. I think that like the ceiling is high. I'm more cautious about it. Part of that excitement for the secondary, I think, in general for the group, a lot of that comes from David Coffey returns, and we knew he would probably be in that one of those first couple safeties. He was very good on Saturday. I think David Coffey is a legit number 1 corner that you can leave him out on an island if you want. And then the other one was Jaheim Singletary coming over from Arkansas, former 5-star recruit. I was not as high on Jaheim Singletary only because I had heard from people at Arkansas that he was pretty shaky there. Whatever that means, I don't know, but there's talent, there's athleticism, and he can do something. Keon Washington, I thought played well. He actually did get in the middle of that. He got dinged up a little bit.
Yep.
I immediately said, "Oh shit, we have another goddamn knee injury in the secondary." Fortunately, he came back in like 5 or 6 plays later, and it was no big deal. But then you've got Ben Ngoye, who did not play, but his physical potential is right on par with like Dom Overby. It's as far as just like an absolute alien of a human being that when the light switch comes on, he's going to be a phenomenal player.
Yep. And I think it's going to be another thing with trying to find the right fit. I mean, we saw Darian Porter in the change that he made, and he was a pick to the Raiders, and he's one of the top corners on their team now. So I think if Benny Ngoye can make that similar sort of jump, or even try to find the right fit, and if he gets in there, makes some good plays, he's a guy that has very high upside at the corner position.
So Seth Johnson also had a nice day out there. He's the Montana State transfer. Right now, I think my projected top 2 would be Coffey and Keon Washington. I think, but Jaheim Singletary and Seth Johnson, I think, are right there behind him. And Ngoye is somewhere in there. I think just him being healthy would make that a little bit easier to project. I think you feel pretty good about like your first 5 corners probably.
Yeah.
And, which you don't generally need 5 corners, but, I think the corners are good. They'll be very solid. I really don't have any worries about them. Go back to the safety spot with obviously with Braden All's out now. Drew Sturgis is going to be up there. You're going to have Michael Harper is probably going to be involved in that rotation somehow for sure. That group's got to find their rhythm a little bit. Like I don't think they were bad or anything like that. They're just like they've got to find their rhythm. They've got to establish their starters. But if there's any sort of a weak spot on the team, it's maybe on the defense. It's maybe safety, and that's only because of the Alls injury. And I think that they've got some nice players in there that I think they'll be there. Like when they kick off against Southeast Missouri, I think you're going to feel just fine about the safeties.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see if that safeties group doesn't have a guy that steps up. Could you see a corner, a DB sliding back into that safety spot?
Maybe. My guess is that because of the flexibility and the athleticism we have at linebacker, my guess is they would be inclined to stick with to just kind of sit into a 4-3 with one of like a Willie Breland or something like that out there as one of the as a third linebacker out there to just be an extra safety sort of. My guess is they would try to do that, and so you'd be running kind of a 4-3-4 type of thing.
Yeah.
My guess is you would do that, and then in an obvious passing situation, then you bring on an extra corner, put Benny Nagoye back there at free safety or something like that. You could do something like that for sure. We'll see. I think they'll be fine. Like I think Michael Harper and Drew Sturgis will be a perfectly fine duo safeties back there. Drew Sturgis is the definition of he's fine. He's not great. He's just fine. Makes some good plays. Make some plays where you're just like, fuck, I wish we had somebody else in there. And that's just what it is. For what it's worth, in the previous defense, it did feel like Drew Sturgis, he wanted to be more of a ball hawk, but that defense doesn't really want a ball hawk. It wants just a guy that's just going to be there and knock a pass down and be done with it, type of thing. This defense is going to want him to be a little bit more of a ball hawk, and I think that will benefit him. Like he will be once in a while he'll be able to jump a dig route or something like that, or jump an out route. He'll be able to do something like that, and I think that's notable that this defense will probably benefit his skill set a little bit better, especially because one of the things I wanted to touch on as kind of a whole for the entire defensive unit is that as we suspected going in, they played a whole lot more man defense on Saturday than we have seen. They played more snaps of man defense on Saturday than we've seen in the last 10 years combined. And we kind of thought that was coming in. If you go back and watch Wazoo tape, they play tons of man defense, and they're really good at it. And you've got the athleticism on this defense to be able to do that. I think they'll be able to get away with it, especially because the Big 12 is not nearly as not everybody's nearly as much of a speed demon as they used to be. If you remember back in the mid 2000s, really the mid aughts or whatever, really in the heyday of the Big 12 air raid offense era, Baylor and TCU and Oklahoma State, those teams had just outrageous speed everywhere. The fastest 10 people in college football all played receiver for those four teams. They had an unbelievable amount of speed on those teams, and it was hard to play. It would be really hard to play man defense because almost assuredly your corners were not fast enough to keep up with their receivers. It just wasn't going to happen. You didn't have a corner that was keeping up with Corey Coleman or Josh Doxson or Tyreek Hill. They weren't keeping up with them. And so it made more sense to just drop back into zone and let them, and not let them get over the top and make them be patient underneath. Now the defense, the Big 12 offenses aren't nearly as speed heavy. You see a lot more power run attacks. You have plenty, and you have plenty of athleticism on the defensive side now that you can match up man to man. I think that will be awesome. I think it'll be are you going to give up some more big plays because someone gets beat? Probably. That'll happen. But if you give up 3 more long touchdowns a year, but you get 5 more picks, That's all you need. That's
Mm-hmm.
then it's a win. That's a net positive right there.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is that Iowa State will be more aggressive on defense. They will gamble a little bit more, which I love, because I've gotten very tired of watching Iowa run the 4-3 defense for the last 20 fucking years. And they have, if you look at the list of like team interceptions over the last like 10 or 15 years, it's Iowa and then like 100 picks and then somebody else that's not
Mm-hmm.
nearly as good at forcing turnovers as Iowa is. And it's been frustrating the last 10 years. Like, our defense has been really good. It's been hard to, you can't argue with the results of the defense.
No.
But if there's anything you can complain about, is that defense did not generate a lot of turnovers.
Mm-hmm.
And I like generating turnovers. I'd rather take a few more risks, give up an extra big player too, because an extra big player too, maybe you leave a guy open, but the quarterback might miss him downfield or something like that. Like, it doesn't mean it's guaranteed to be a big play. But if you get a pick, if you get a couple picks a game or a couple turnovers a game, that's backbreaking for the teams, especially if you can control the ball with your running game, like Iowa State is hoping to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's backbreaking. And I love the idea of being able to grab a few more of those each year.
Definitely. Yeah. And I think it's a mindset switch. I mean, from the old defense, they're a lot more conservative, wanted to keep things under all the time. They didn't get beat as over the top as much. But like, then again, they also didn't force a lot of turnovers. They wanted to keep everything in front of them,
right?
Get them behind the chains early down. So that way they had to throw long, which is what we wanted them to do.
Absolutely.
So it's just a mindset switch, but I'm ready to see more turnovers. I do like turnovers.
I'm just ready to see something different.
Mm-hmm.
I won't lie. It was fun watching four defensive linemen and some man defense. Felt good. I liked watching it. Let's no hate on the 3-3 stack. That defense won us a lot of football games, but at a certain point you need to say, this. I think it was probably time for Iowa State to start looking at evolving their defensive scheme. And, were they still going to always continue to be a pretty solid defensive team? Yeah, probably. But if you want to step up and be better against these power running attacks, the 3-3 stack might not be it. That defense was built to beat Kyler Murray in Oklahoma. It was built to beat Baker Mayfield. It was built to beat those old air raid teams. And it did. It beat the hell out of them. They gave them tons of problems. It was built to beat Will Grier at West Virginia. And it absolutely did that with flying colors.
Yes.
But the last few years, it's been getting exposed a little bit more by these more power running attacks by mobile quarterbacks, things like that. And it's like the everybody had the tape. Everybody knew like where the vulnerabilities were, where you'd be able to find space, what things you should do, what things you shouldn't do. Everybody knew that stuff. And the secret sauce to beating Iowa State on offense was out. Everybody had it. So now you get to change it up. You can do something a little bit different. And now it's, you can play man defense, which means that you can rely more on just winning your individual matchups. And they've got the athleticism and the talent to do that. I like this. I think it's a great scheme switch. And now that I've gotten to see it in person, I think it's awesome. I think they're going to be very successful with it.
I do agree.
Yeah. Iowa State and Iowa are going to be the same fucking football team this year. They're going to play really good defense. They're going to play ball controls, potentially shitty offense. Iowa State will have a running quarterback. Iowa will not, but that's kind of there. The starting punter, I saw the Aussie kid looked really good. Had some nice kicks. Kyle Conradi, still a beast. No
surprises there.
That was a lock as lock of a lock as locks get. Backup punter, not great. Fortunately, hopefully you don't really need to see him at all this year.
Yeah.
But starter looked good. Kyle Conradi looked good. They didn't do a ton on special teams, but Cody Jackson, got a couple looks as a punt returner. Flora and Cam Petaway back there, kick returner. They didn't let him do a ton, but
yeah, there were no punt returns that I saw.
Nope.
Which was good.
Yeah. Overall, though, I'm glad it was nice to see. It was nice to just see football being played at Jack Trice Stadium. It was nice to have that out there.
Great weather too.
Yeah, for sure. I'm coming away feeling even better about the defense than I did before. I'm feeling very hopeful. I'm feeling more optimistic about the passing game than I was before after seeing like what some of the balls that Rayner and Flores were throwing,
Mhm.
and seeing Dom Overby be a more confident receiver, seeing Evan Boyd being a pretty damn physically imposing in person. Cody Jackson made some nice plays. I, I'm more optimistic about the passing game. I think right now, we assume the running back game will be good. We assume they're going to use that to control the ball, but we just didn't get to see much of it on Saturday,
Yeah. Yeah.
especially not with the starting running backs. So that still remains a question, but
Yeah. I think that'll really get ironed out, especially once they settle on an offensive line as well.
for sure.
I think the offensive line is definitely one of the biggest question marks moving forward. I think we didn't really see a whole lot of consistency for guys, and guys that we thought might get some more run didn't. So it'll be interesting to see how they move forward and what we hear from that.
I would agree. I guess you get anything else you want to toss in here before we wrap her up, or
No, I think we covered most of it. I think the receivers and the O line were the couple main parts that I wanted to.
yeah.
Hit on.
My takeaway is that I would say it's going to be like the defense is going to be good. They're going to be a good unit. I think it running the ball against Iowa State will be a tall task next year. We'll see what the safeties look like, but I think the defense it looked really solid. I think they will be. I think by the time you get to October and November, I think you're going to see a very, very stout Iowa State run defense, especially. And the offense is going to be a work in progress. If the offensive line can gel and Jalen Rayner can find some time or find some escape routes and to be able to use his legs, I feel cautiously optimistic about it. But like I said, I came away feeling better about the passing game and still questions with the running game. So
yeah.
And that stuff, hopefully the running game will shore itself up as we get going, as Jake Thornton has more time to develop these guys and more time to get them ready to go, and just get everybody in a rhythm. So, I feel as good or better than I did going in.
Definitely. I think it was just good to see things in person, see what coaches were talking about, like the progress that people have been making, the competition between Flores and Flores and Rayner. So I think it just really ironed out things, and it gives us a lot of hopeful optimism for the future.
Absolutely. So we're going to wrap her up for this week. Appreciate everybody watching this episode of Iowa State Cyclones live here on the Voice of College Football. We are going to be off next week. Carter and I are going to be both out, and we'll be back in a couple weeks to talk some more off-season stuff. We'll see. Maybe talk a little bit of Big 12. We'll see what this happens with this Brennan Sorsby thing. Texas Tech might be in trouble. Yes. Cincinnati and Texas Tech both might be in trouble here for different reasons. I don't really care about Texas Tech losing their shit. That's fine.
No,
I don't feel bad about it at all. Or Dan Wetzel saying, "Well, this is the first major gambling controversy," as if we didn't have our thing. But
man, fuck off.
Whatever. Anyways, thank you everybody for watching. We'll be back in a couple weeks, and we'll see you guys all again next time on Iowa State Cyclones Live here on the Voice of College Football Network. For Carter, I am Levi. We'll see you guys again in a couple weeks. Thanks.